Do you like meeting new friends? Do you want to talk about the things you love with people who understand? Then come join us at the Wisdom Tree House presented by Wisdom for Blinded Youth. The Wisdom Tree House is a super fun monthly event on Zoom, where we'll gather and interact with each other in a safe and inclusive space. We'll talk about our favorite books, places we've traveled, hobbies we enjoy, and more. Plus we get to meet other children who are blind and visually impaired. Join us at the Wisdom Tree House, presented by Wisdom for Blinded Youth on the third Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit the Wisdom for Blinded Youth portal at w4by.org.
You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
You are listening to Share, the podcast that's all about helping empower the wisdom. From the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, here's your host, Mr. Douglas Cram.
Hello and welcome to Share the Wisdom. I'm your host, Doug Cram. Today we are talking with Betsy Huggins and Joe Hodge from American Printing House for the Blind. Betsy, Joe, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful, Doug.
Doing great. How are you, Doug?
I'm doing fine. Joe, we're going to start with Betsy, so if you want to just stand by for a minute, I'll get to you, okay?
All right.
Betsy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my computer did some kind of weird sound. It says that you're an engagement specialist?
That is correct.
Or engagement and training specialist. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So I started working at APH a few years ago. I work in our social enterprise department as the engagement and training specialist, which means I get to connect folks across the country and across the world to APH products. I do that primarily through Access Academy webinars, and occasionally I get to hit the road and meet people out at conferences.
Okay. Where were you born and where did you go to high school?
I was born in Annapolis, Maryland, and I went to high school in Louisville, Kentucky, which is where APH is located.
Okay. Where did you go to college and what degrees do you have?
I attended Beloit College in Beloit, Wisconsin, and I have bachelor's degrees in political science and in theater arts.
You joined APH in 2020. Did you do anything between college and APH?
I did. I spent over 10 years working in regional theaters across the country in the education and community outreach departments.
What brought you to APH?
A pandemic is notoriously a bad time to be employed in a theater where we can't do the work that we're best known for. And I found myself back in Louisville, Kentucky. APH is about a mile away from where I grew up. So I've been very well aware of the organization and finally had the opportunity to take some of my teaching skills and blend them with APH.
When I ask people that question, they usually say that they have a blind or visually impaired person in their family or know of a blind or visually impaired person. That's why I ask.
No, not in my family, but when I worked at Actors Theater of Louisville, which is a professional theater in town, I did outreach work with Kentucky School for the Blind. I taught playwriting in some classrooms with students who wrote just some of the funniest and silliest, most wonderful plays I've ever read. So that was really how I got connected with the community.
Can you give us an example of one of those plays?
Yes, I actually got to direct one that was written by a student at KSB named Jacob Hack. His play was titled The Big Daddy Pop-Tart Booster. It's set in an apocalyptic future where nuclear-powered toasters are incredibly rare, and one man has the courage to fight for the last one. Incredibly colorful, so many fun characters. It featured an actor who had to rap Baby Got Back completely out of order. Just really fun, spectacular, creative ideas.
Sounds fun.
It was really fun to direct.
Do you know the history of the American Printing House for the Blind?
I do know a bit about the history. I'm a mostly native Louisvillian, so it's definitely a point of pride in Louisville. We've been based here since 1858, so we're older than 100 years and have been continuously operating in that time period, starting as one guy working in a basement room at the Kentucky School for the Blind, and finally becoming a huge institution that takes up almost a whole block in the historic Clifton neighborhood. Started out, of course, as a printing house. That's why we've kept that name. People think we're often a book publisher, but the name comes from being the historic place where Braille was printed. We still do print Braille in our facility, but we also make educational aids and resources, anything from super low tech stuff all the way through very high tech magnifiers, Braille displays, and other cool inventions.
I didn't realize that APH goes that far back. You must be one of the oldest facilities dealing with the visually impaired.
I would say so in the United States.
What kind of services does the APH offer?
So APH was founded as not only a printing house, but is the primary provider of products for students in the K through 12 educational system who are blind or visually impaired. Over time, APH has taken on, in addition to the products we create, a variety of services for the community. One is all of our training that we do. That's one of the things that I've been involved with at APH. During the pandemic, it really gave us an opportunity to focus on our virtual training and what options we have for folks not only all across America, but we find that we have attendees to our webinars all across the world. So you might be familiar with our webinars. We produce those through Access Academy. That's one of our platforms that provides a lot of resources for folks in the field, specifically TVIs and those working with students. However, we do have lots of webinars also on product education that are really helpful for users. We also have a webinar series called Partner Showcase. That's an opportunity to talk to others working in the fields. We work a lot with folks like Humanware, Vispero, and other brands that serve folks who are blind or visually impaired. And we have them on pretty regularly to discuss what's new in the field, what products are available, and what other services we can connect folks with. So to get signed up to receive an email about our upcoming webinars, you can just email communications@aph.org. Just send a quick email off with your name and your email address, and you'll be registered to receive a weekly email just about what webinars are coming next. We archive our webinars on our YouTube platform. You can search American Printing House on YouTube, or you can find us at our handle at APHORG. We archive our content from Access Academy and Partner Showcase, so you can find webinars on products, on different ideas that people are speaking about in the community. You can look for playlists or simply browse by device. We also have sneak peeks on new products on the horizon. So the YouTube page is a really great place to go for information if you can't necessarily attend a live taping of a webinar. And finally, we have The Hive. The Hive is a free asynchronous learning platform. It was intended originally for folks who are working with students, so TVIs, O&Ms, and other folks employed in the field. However, it has grown to be a really incredible compendium of resources for the whole field. It offers what's called asynchronous learning, so courses at your own pace. And while it has lots of resources for teachers and folks in the classroom, it also has great content for users on devices like the Mac Connect, Juno, Mantis Q40, and Zoom Text. For those that have the Chameleon 20, we've got a Hive learning course coming very soon for that product. So a great way to learn at your own pace about devices that you might have gotten from APH. And finally, we've got on the Hive these professional learning communities. So if you're an AT specialist, a Braille transcriber, a VRT, TVI, paraprofessional, or some other role, we have lots of resources, including videos, webinars, blogs, and links to resources, really trying to bring the field together. So that's some of our learning resources.
Are these services free?
Absolutely. All these services are free. So our webinars are free. Our YouTube is free. And finally, the Hive, where you can get asynchronous learning, that's free. A few years ago, we also adopted a platform of services from the American Federation for the Blind called the Connect Center. It's a whole host of resources for folks in the community that is also free. It's divided into 3 categories. The first is called Career Connect, which is for job seekers who are blind or visually impaired. It's got tons of resources and knowledge about and intended for folks who are currently looking for careers, including a job board. There's also a transition hub, and we are partnering with Insight, N-S-I-T-E, to help folks who are transitioning to college or career with some resources for getting started, and that job board as well. We also have Vision Aware, which is for independent living with vision loss. It's a great resource, especially for older folks who might have lost their vision later in life. Resources on how to set up your home for maintaining your independence, different ways to connect with a community. And finally, Family Connect, which provides resources for families with students who are blind or low vision, including a way to connect with other families who are experiencing the same thing.
Does one have to register to access these services?
No, only one you have to kind of register for is the Hive, but it's free to register. You just give your information and you get a platform on the Hive where you can download all of your courses that you're going to be taking from the Hive. It's kind of like having your own learning management system, showing what courses you're taking, how far you've progressed in your courses. And then, of course, if you're looking for continuing education credits within the field, you can get those through the Hive as well. Other than that, there's no need to sign up, pay any fee. All of these are free resources from APH.
Talk to me about some of the things one will see in your webinars.
Oh man, they really run the gamut. So I work with a lot of our product managers on our high-tech devices. So I've worked with Joe on some Mantis webinars and Chameleon webinars. We also have webinars on products like Code Jumper. That is our proprietary coding tool that teaches block style coding to students. So I'm engaged with a lot of the high-tech webinars that are really letting people know what technology's out there, what updates we have to technology, and what's on the horizon. We have another team that works really specifically with content for teachers and families that are creating webinars on how to introduce curriculum within the classroom. And it blends also some content about how to use those assistive technology devices in the classroom. But the ones I work on are really in the high-tech division.
Can one purchase items from the APH website?
Yes. APH products can be bought by anyone on the APH website. You can search our catalog. We have over 900 products available, and those are all available not only to schools and students, but also to the general public, whoever would like to purchase.
Can you give me the website and the telephone number for the American Printing House for the Blind?
You can find APH online at aph.org, or you can call us toll free at 1-800-223-1839. We're based out of Louisville, Kentucky. So for folks in the area or within the United States, you can also reach us at 1-502-895-2405.
Okay, Betsy, we're going to take a small break, so please stand by.
Wisdom for the Blind is dedicated to doing everything we can for the blind and sight impaired. If you'd like to bless us with a donation to keep the website, the podcast, the webinars, and the radio station operating, we can't express how grateful we'd be. You can go to the website at w4tb.org. That's4tb.org, and hit the donation button. Or you can mail it to Wisdom for the Blind Incorporated. Attention donations. 1005 Marina Mile Boulevard, Suite 255, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33315. Wisdom for the Blind is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Remember, it's tax deductible. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts at Wisdom for the Blind. Are you a big geek? Do you enjoy learning about new technology? Then join us on the fourth Thursday of every month for the Wisdom Geek Club at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also hear a pre-recorded episode on Wisdom Radio every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, hit up w4tb.org and click on the Geek Club button on the main page. And don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.
You're listening to Wisdom for the Blind Radio, W4TV, from the studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the home of the Wisdom for Blinded Kids portal. Please enjoy the show, and don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.
Okay, Betsy, we're back. You wanted to talk about a few more things?
Yeah, so just going to put a plug in for a few more services through APH.
Okay.
If you've got questions about a product, especially one of the ones that Joe will talk about today, you can reach our customer service department by calling 1-800-223-1839 or by emailing cs@aph.org. On our website, you can look for the Connect page and sign up for our monthly news email. Once a month, you'll get an email from APH that compiles all that's going on, not only at APH, but within the field. It's a great way to stay in contact with APH, learn about new releases, and connect with others. And finally, if you love podcasts, be sure to check out APH's podcast, Change Makers. You can look for that wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay. Now, in your bio, it says that you like using your skills as a teaching artist. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so teaching artistry is a pedagogical style that involves blending art with learning. So it's taking the foundational skills of artistic practice. In my case, I really rely on drama and especially playwriting practice and blend those skills into curriculum development.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, that's it for me. Thank you.
What's your YouTube channel?
We are at APHORG.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe, are you ready?
I'm ready to go, Doug.
You're a quality insurance manager. What does that mean?
So this is a job I just moved into about 2 months ago. So basically what I do is we have a team of two, myself and another individual, and I help sort of lead the testing of software here at APH. So that'll be things like, our apps, anything on the website that we put up as far as programs for students or teachers. And then also the Braille displays, like in our newest product called the Monarch. So I go through and just look for bugs in the software that could make things a little frustrating for users.
And how long have you been doing this with APH?
So I've been a quality assurance analyst for about 5 years, and I moved into a manager role this year. And then sort of in between that, I did product management. So I did that for about a year as well. And I help do a few products and try to get them through the quota system.
Do you mind talking about your visual impairment?
Yeah. So I'm totally blind. I had a retinal blastoma basically when I was 1 year old, they found it and I got both eyes removed. Typically retinal blastoma just affects one eye. We caught it a little late and they had to remove both. So I grew up in Indiana near Fort Wayne, went to a public school there, and then went to Ball State after that. But yeah, basically, I don't remember having any sight at all. So as a kid, I got to use a lot of APH's products. So I remember like the handy cassette player, the Braille Note, or the Braille and Speak Scholar. I don't know why I said Braille Note, but Braille and Speak Scholar. APH has always been sort of near and dear to my heart just because it was something I remember as a kid.
Now, you said that you went to public school. Did you go to public school or a school for the visually impaired?
A public school. I went to the School for the Blind in Indiana for preschool for about a week, and I hated being away from home because it was in Indianapolis, and I just missed my parents and my siblings. So they brought me back home. After that wasn't going to work out, and I went to a public school just in Indiana, a small little school of about 120 in my class.
How'd you do in public school?
Really well. I had for the first 5 years that I went to school, I had a great teacher, the visually impaired. She came in and taught me Braille, taught me my love for technology. So we actually would go out to Lions clubs and do a lot of speeches. She would take me around to try to get some money for other kids as well. So I would show off, things I would do on the Braille and Speak, and how it was changing my life and doing things in school that, previously weren't available. And so it was a lot of fun to sort of help try to bring funding in for other kids.
The reason I asked is that I just met a visually impaired teenager, and he goes to a public high school, and he loves it. He's a musician, plays in a band, and just loves being in public school.
Yeah, the older I get, it's interesting. I mean, we could go long in this, but the older I get, I didn't know any blind folks until I was probably 17 or 18 years old because there just wasn't anyone in my area. My parents never knew anyone blind. I finally went out to a NFB conference in like the 8th grade, and I kind of just met some folks, but didn't really have, we didn't have the internet back then really, or, it was harder than it is now. So, I'd meet some people and sort of learn life lessons. But as I got older, it was all I knew. So I think, there are times I look back at those teen years and say, I would have loved to kind of been in a blind school setting just to kind of go through those changes in life with other blind folks. But at the same time, like, I know what I know, so it was fun though. I like to hope that, folks saw, my friends that I made in school, sort of blindness never really came up. It was never a problem.
Now, do you play a musical instrument?
I don't. I have picked up the guitar lately. During COVID, it was one of the things I started. I actually downloaded a book on NLS Bard. I'm teaching myself how to play the guitar. But it was something I fought for a long time just because of the stereotypical thing. Growing up, I was always told that, blind folks play instruments, and I just don't like to be stereotypical. So I kind of stayed away from it. And I feel bad about that now. It's something I wish I had actually done. But I enjoy the guitar. I've enjoyed sort of teaching myself.
Well, when I heard that this teenager plays guitar and piano, I mentioned to him that there's a gentleman named Bill Brown who has a company called Guitar by Ear.
Mm-hmm.
And he teaches the visually impaired songs, contemporary songs, note for note, either by download or CD. And you can go to his website called Guitar by Ear, and there are something like 1,400 guitar lessons that you can get on his website. I'm visually impaired and I play guitar, and most of the stuff I've learned I got from him.
That is awesome. I'll check that out.
Yeah. You mentioned the school that you went to, the college. What degree did you earn at that school?
So when I first started out, I really wanted to go into radio. So I ended up getting a bachelor's in communications. I sort of switched into that sort of halfway through. And when I got out, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was always sort of driven by tech. And so the first job I applied for out of college was at Apple. And I remember I actually got the job, and I was going to work, and I got a call from my supervisor, and they said that the training that I was going to have to do on the Mac was not accessible at this point. And she said to not bother coming in. This is before Apple had the iPhone, which is so ironic because that device has changed our lives in such a positive way for accessibility. But at the time, I was sort of devastated. So it was my first job out of college, and basically the first day in, I was told that, hey, this wasn't going to work. And I think that's the first moment I had where I sort of realized like how different the job world is from the sort of university / high school world, where things were adapted to me. Now that was sort of a different environment, at the time. So,
well, you've sort of got to adapt to the job then.
Exactly.
Yeah. How long have you been with APH?
I've been here 6 years.
Okay. Let's talk about the Mantis Q40 now, if we can. Can you describe the Mantis Q40?
Yeah, so the Mantis Q40 is a QWERTY keyboard. That's what kind of makes it unique in a way. So a lot of Braille devices have the sort of 6-key or Perkins style entry. This has a QWERTY entry. It has a 40-cell Braille display right underneath the keyboard, and it has cursor routing keys as well. So one of the things that really makes this device stand out, so I had a job before APH when I moved to Louisville. I worked at Humana, and I worked with the military doing insurance claims and things of that nature. And I had a Braille device that would sit on my desk. It was a Focus 40, and I had my QWERTY keyboard, right? And so the thing that always bugged me when I would work was that the Braille display and the keyboard would never line up. And it was always two pieces that you had to sort of think about. Because even though I'm a great Braille typist, I don't really like using Braille input on Windows. So basically, the Braille display was only used for reading. And when I got to APH and I heard that, we were kind of looking at this idea, that's something that really excited to me and I could relate to. So the idea that you could literally take, the QWERTY keyboard and you can type normally and then have the Braille device all in one. So it has what's called a terminal mode. You can connect it to Windows, Mac, iPhone, iPad, Chrome, etc. And you can actually connect it to 5 devices at one time through Bluetooth and then one USB device. And to be able to switch between these devices and do your work is really great. So we kind of thought about the STEM population for education as well as coding. Those are the 2 big focuses right now. And a lot of these things you need the QWERTY input for, because doing the Braille equivalent is a bit challenging for folks. It has the thumb keys, your traditional thumb keys from HumanWare on the front. So we have 4 of those. And then we have a circle home button in the middle, which is really nice because as you're sort of using the device, if you ever just want to go back to the main menu, you can press that and boom, you're there. We'll talk about sort of applications that you have on the device, because this device is more than just a keyboard. It has some smarts to it. So you have a editor where you can take notes. We have a library function, so you can download books from Bookshare or NFB Newsline. So it has actually Wi-Fi built into it. We have a calculator function, which is just basic, 4-function calculator. And we have a settings app where you can control the different settings of the device. We also have a file manager, which allows you to sort of organize your files. You can copy, create folders, that sort of thing, just like you could on a computer. And of course, we have the terminal, which I talked about. That's where you're going to be connecting to a host device like a screen reader.
Is that a full-size keyboard?
There's no numpad, but it is outside of that. It's basically it reminds me of a laptop keyboard in a sense, because you got the normal QWERTY and then you got arrow keys, and then it kind of cuts off after the right arrow with, on a laptop in a sense.
What techniques are creating the Braille dots?
The piezo.
Okay.
So it's your traditional sort of piezo technology that's in a lot of the other, like the Braille Note and different devices that are already out there.
And that's a pretty good technique, the piezo.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's very quiet. It refreshes really fast. It's been around for, 20, 30 years in Braille devices.
Okay, Joe, we're going to take another break, so please stand by.
Veterans deserve as much help as they can get. They put their lives on the line for their country, and yet there's still an ongoing mental health crisis among military veterans that needs to be addressed. Well, if you're a veteran who wants the support of fellow veterans and to support fellow veterans, join Wisdom for the Blind's Cup of Joe virtual coffee and chat. It's low-key, fun, and gives veterans an outlet to talk with others who fully understand what they're going through. Get connected at Wisdom for the Blind's website, w4tb.org/cupofjoe.
Looking for a fitness app that is accessible for the blind? Well, look no further. Revision Fitness is just what the trainer ordered. This audio and text-based fitness program has a wide selection of fitness options, including cardio, strength, yoga, balance, flexibility, and even progressive relaxation sessions. Download Revision Fitness on the App Store or Google Play, or visit revisionfitnessapp.com and get a free 14-day trial for new users. Find your fit with Revision Fitness. And as always,
Revision Fitness.
let's change the way we look at it.
You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB Radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
Okay, Joe, we're back. Can you talk about using that keyboard with a Windows PC and accessing JAWS or using JAWS to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Doug. So going back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier with the fact that this is a QWERTY keyboard versus, the Braille keyboard that we traditionally have with Braille displays, the advantage I think that the Mantis has is that you get to use your normal Windows commands. So, for example, Alt F4 is Alt F4 on the device, right? You don't, like with a Braille, for example, the device I talked about earlier, the Focus 40, Alt F4 is like 3 keystrokes. It's something that a lot of us don't learn. So the advantage here is that your normal Windows commands work. And it also works as just a normal keyboard. But to get into with the JAWS, how it works with JAWS is once you basically either choose USB or Bluetooth, however you're going to connect it to your device, you go into JAWS, choose Mantis Q40, and choose that as your preferred Braille display. And you will automatically just start getting Braille once JAWS restarts. It's a very seamless setup. I use it with Bluetooth and, have my Windows laptop sitting across the room a lot when I'm working from home. And I can just sit back in my recliner and use the Mantis on my lap and, control my whole Windows laptop with it, which is awesome.
Now, I heard that you can access talking books with that. Is that correct?
Not talking books. So you would have to connect to a host device. So you'd have to use like your iPhone or a Windows PC to get like NLS Bard. On this device, there's no speaker on the Mantis.
Oh, okay. There's
a little speaker that does like beeps or vibrations or whatever, but it's not a fidelity speaker that you would listen to like, a talking book through. So no, at this time, it's if you do like a Bookshare book, for example, you would only have the Braille output.
Okay. Now, you mentioned thumb buttons and a center button. What are those for?
So we have 4 thumb keys, which so if you're, for example, reading a book or scrolling through the menus, the outside, and these can be customized. You can actually change how these work, but by default, the outside thumb keys are previous and next element. So you're scrolling down, per item. And then the inside thumb keys move you by 40 characters. So, if you're reading like a paragraph of text, you would use the inside thumb keys to kind of scroll through that. But if you want to go like carriage return to carriage return, you would hit the outside thumb keys.
Okay. Now, we talked about using the keyboard with Windows. How is using the keyboard with iOS?
Really good. We are actually using what's called a new HID standard, which means previously, if you have a Braille display with iOS, you had to go in and go to accessibility, then voiceover, then Braille, and choose your display, which was really hard for parents, of kiddos that don't understand this technology. So one of the things that the new HID standard allows us to do is connect right through Bluetooth. So, somebody goes into Bluetooth, they can choose the Mantis from the list, once you're ready to pair, and you're ready to go. So it's a little bit more seamless, but it works really well. So you can use the normal QWERTY keyboard commands, which there are a lot. Apple has, thought all that through. Using keyboard commands is pretty good. I've used them for a while. I do think Braille gives you a little bit more flexibility of a Braille keyboard on iOS. They kind of have that the ability to customize some things that you can't do on the QWERTY side. But overall, you actually have a pretty good connection. And you can go, what I like about the Mantis is I can go from my iOS to my Windows PC with, the touch of a button, basically. And, I can text my wife and then write a work email and then, move on with my day. It's so nice.
Wow, nice. I also heard that there's an SD card, isn't there?
There is. Traditionally, the Mantis has 16 gig of storage on its own. And then you can add a SD card or a thumb drive. So we have a USB-A slot on the left-hand side that you can plug a thumb drive in. And then we have a SD card slot on the back. We also do have a USB-C slot, but that's for charging or for connecting to your PC. You can't connect like a USB-C thumb drive to it yet at this time.
Does the keyboard have function keys?
We have a function key at the, like next to the control key.
Uh-huh.
But if you're talking about like the function like F1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, those are at the top as well.
Right.
And what's really cool, I didn't mention this earlier, Doug, but what is really nice about that is the F4, 8, and 12 key have a little like line on them like you would feel on an F and J. They sort of stick out. So when you're doing your JAWS commands especially, or even voiceover commands for the Mac, these are easier to find, for example, like Alt F4, you can just feel up there, boom, feel that little bump, and you're there. If you're doing like the links list with JAWS, which is F7, you can, find the F8 key with the bump and then move right or left one and you're good to go. It makes it very nice. I have a Surface, it has a Surface cover, and those keys get hard to find sometimes on some of these laptops because they're so close together, where I feel like the Mantis having that sort of extra feedback is a very nice thing.
So you find yourself using this keyboard more than your not your iOS, but your desktop computer keyboard?
Yeah, I actually use this device, the Mantis, all the time. And I'm not just saying that as an APH employee. I use it I'm a gamer, so I like to game on the weekends. So one nice thing is that, you can turn off all the accessibility. So like I don't have to have Braille or anything. I could just use it as a normal keyboard if I'm gaming, because a lot of times JAWS or NVDA don't work with the games. So you can just turn all that off and still use the keyboard as a keyboard, which is nice. So it's really fit into my life very well. And it's one of those devices I would miss,
What's the weight of the keyboard?
I don't have the exact weight on me, but it's very light. I would say it's probably about 1.5 pounds.
Okay.
And it's a little bit bigger, obviously, because you have the QWERTY keyboard. So it's going to be bigger than what most people are used to that have used a normal Braille input display. But it's about the size of like a 13-inch laptop altogether.
Okay.
So I can actually, like I went out to CSUN recently, and I had my Mantis and my carry-on, as well as my MacBook Pro, and they both fit in the laptop area. It was fine.
How'd you like CSUN this year?
It was awesome. It was actually finally, I felt like back to what it was before COVID had happened. We were showing off a new device called the Monarch, and it was back to back of folks, and it was fun.
Let me just ask you a couple more questions about the keyboard, and then I'll ask you a question about the Monarch. What's the power source for the Mantis?
It charges with USB-C, and you can just plug it into like an iPhone wall plug. So like kind of your typical sort of 5-volt, plug.
So off the charging cord, how many hours of use can you get with the keyboard?
So I've been able to get roughly around, like in real use, I would say 8 to 12. I think on the website we quote 16.
Wow.
But realistically, I'm getting probably, and that's connected to 3 devices usually. I'm connected to my iPhone, Mac, and usually my Windows PC. So
that's awesome battery life.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about as far as the Mantis Q40 goes?
We do offer a email list to sign up. So one of the really nice things is if you're just kind of interested about the product, or you just want to, maybe you buy the Mantis and you have a question. We also have a Braille display called the Chameleon. The list talks about both devices. You can get to that by going to https:// and then www. And it's free lists, lists.org/list, list/APH Mantis. That's APH MANTIS. And then Chameleon. I know we have this is like the longest address ever. Chameleon, which is CHAMELEON. And then user, USER. And that will actually get you to the website where you can sign up for the free lists. And you can actually chat with folks like myself, the product manager, now William. We all sort of monitor this. And then we also have other users. So, if you maybe you're in the market for a Braille display and you want to ask people what their thoughts are, there's going to be lots of people that will chime in that have these devices.
Okay. Well, I don't have time to ask you about both of those products, but You mentioned the Monarch. Can you briefly talk about the Monarch?
Yes. So the Monarch is going to be our new Braille display. It's a Braille / graphics display. So it's running, we're actually sort of running Keysoft because we're partnering with HumanWare on this, and then Dot for the technology, Dot Incorporated. So it is it's really cool. So it's a 10 lines of Braille, 32 cells. And then you can also do tactographics. And I just got it about 3 weeks ago, the week right before CSUN. So I've been playing with it almost every night. One of the things that is really interesting is you'll be reading Braille, like, 10 lines, which, like, for example, the Mantis has 40 cells, right?
Right.
You kind of forget how hard it is to read a page of Braille until you go back to reading 10 lines. You get like close to the bottom and you're like, am I done yet? Because you're waiting to refresh, because it's just in your mind. It's been sort of conditioned that we have to hit the thumb key or refresh the Braille display after 40 cells. So like just kind of getting back into the flow of reading like a longer sheet of Braille is pretty cool. One of the pictures that we show is of the U.S. maps. So it's a map of the United States. It's done through the transcriber library. So like all these from this library images done by transcribers that you're able to pull from on the device. They're labeled in Braille. So you can pull up the United States, and just being able to see a map of the United States, it just, because you want to, is so powerful. It's something that I've never had access to myself. I know sort of the layout of states, but I don't always know like where they're located. So one of my things I'm really excited to do is like pull up a map of Europe, because I don't exactly know how things border there. And I'm kind of loving the idea of being able to feel around and know, like what borders Germany, for example. So I think the power of this device, it teaches folks concepts that as blind people, we don't always think about, like zooming, panning. You hear about that stuff on your iPhone with folks talking, about picture navigation, but we have not had the concepts of those things ingrained in us. So I think it's going to be some teaching and some learning for folks to do, but it's an exciting time. I can't wait to see, kids that grow up with this device, to see like how that changes their trajectory, and what they can do with it.
Does that use the piezo to create the dots as well?
So no, it's actually using a different technology from Dot. So it actually is a bit more, it's still sort of pin-based. It kind of feels, similar. But the one thing about piezo that happens when you push on a piezo cell, the dots will sort of sink down. With these, it's more of kind of like a pin type where you can push down on the dots and they don't move. So that's one, I think, sort of advantage that it has. Kids can kind of sort of be a little bit rougher with it. And it doesn't change the dot shape if you're sort of pushing down harder on it.
2 more questions about this, and then I'm going to have to go. But can you use this device with both a Windows PC and an Apple iOS, like an iPhone or something?
That's a really great question. At this moment, no, but it's something that we're working on. So traditionally, I'll just take the Windows laptop, for example. They traditionally only work with a single line of Braille. Uh-huh. So it's something that the screen readers like JAWS and NVDA are going to have to build into their screen reader itself.
Okay. How do you tell the device that you want to see a picture of the United States, the map?
So right now we just have images, but in the future, like we just have files loaded on there. But in the future, we're actually going to be partnering with the TGIL, which is the Tactographics Image Library, that people can go on right now and like print off it, like emboss pictures, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to just be able to go on there and search. And this is going to give you the best sort of resolution and also a picture made for a blind and visually impaired person. You will be able to somewhat do Google images as well and just take like a PNG. However, the resolution of that will be probably not the best, just because those aren't really made for, to be touched in a sense, you know what I mean? So, but the TGIL will probably be the predominant way that we're going to sort of interface with getting pictures and graphs.
Okay. We're going to take one more break, so please stand by.
I took a musket ball in Chancellorsville.
Hi, I'm Mike Byer, Executive Director for Operation Song, where we pair Nashville's songwriters with veterans, active duty military, and their families to tell their stories through the process of songwriting. Our services are 100% free, and songwriting or musical talent is not required. For more information, check us out at operationsong.org. If you think this is something you're interested in, email us at contact@operationsong.org.
Till the last Monday in May.
Do you enjoy a good read? Or do you enjoy sharing new books with friends? Then join us on the second Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Wisdom Books, a virtual book club just for the blind or visually impaired. You can also hear a pre-recorded episode on Wisdom Radio every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, go to w4tb.org and click the link Wisdom Books for more information. And please don't forget to share the wisdom.
You're listening to Wisdom for the Blind Radio, W4TV, from the studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the home of the Wisdom for Blinded Kids portal. Please enjoy the show, and don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.
And here's Ellie with the news and mail.
Thank you, Doug. And to our listeners, thank you for dropping in today to listen to Share the Wisdom, where we bring you up-to-date knowledge of hot topics. Now to our first story. In sports, Stephon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills has been traded to the Houston Texans, where he will play alongside quarterback sensation, C.J. Stroud. The Houston Texans will receive Diggs, and the Buffalo Bills will receive draft pick compensation. This trade makes the Houston Texans a Super Bowl contender if they weren't one already. In the NBA, the playoffs are approaching. The 2023-24 NBA playoffs will start on April 20th. In the West, seeds 1 through 6 include the Nuggets, Timberwolves, Thunder, Clippers, Mavericks, and Pelicans. In the East, the Boston Celtics, Bucks, Cavaliers, Magic, Knicks, and Pacers hold spots 1 through 6. On to our next order of business. Let's talk travel. Pittsburgh has been named as the top global travel destination in National Geographic publication. Pittsburgh is thought of to be an alternative to San Francisco. Pittsburgh is a melting pot for forward-thinking technology sectors, history, community-minded 19th century neighborhoods, and hills. Moving on to technology. Fast food in Texas is taking an innovative turn. The first ever humanless McDonald's has been constructed, where customers will be served by robots. In Fort Worth, Texas, this McDonald's requires no human contact for people to pick up and place their orders. That's all for today's news. This has been Ellie from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios. Back to you, Doug.
Hi, I'm Christina Hepner.
And I'm Leslie Hoskins, and we're hosts of the Taking the Lead podcast from Leader Dogs for the Blind.
Our podcast provides insight into the blindness community and impactful stories from our clients.
At Leader Dog, we continue to be the answer for thousands who need our free services. These include guide dog training, white cane training, and more. Once clients complete training, they're reintroduced to a life of safety and independence.
Learn more at leaderdog.org.
Are you a family member or caregiver of someone who is blind or visually impaired? Do you struggle with finding answers and support in times of difficulty? If so, Wisdom for the Blind is here to help. Wisdom for the Blind is a dynamic nonprofit organization dedicated to helping blind and visually impaired individuals. Wisdom for the Blind is proud to present Path to Wisdom, a monthly virtual support group that can help you find the answers you need. Path to Wisdom brings together family members and caregivers of people who are blind or visually impaired. You'll have the opportunity to connect with others and share your experiences. Join us for Path to Wisdom on the fourth Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit our website at w4tb.org.
You're listening to Wisdom for the Blind Radio, W4TV, from the studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the home of the Wisdom for Blinded Kids portal. Please enjoy the show, and don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.
Okay, Joe, we're back. Can you go through the piezo technology once again?
Yeah, so piezo technology is basically sort of what most, or well, typically all Braille displays have been built on up until about 2000, I want to say 17. It was roughly about the first time. I mean, there's always been people experimenting with different other technologies, but basically what it is is it's electric driven. So a lot of these braille cells, if you could feel the actual sort of housing of them, is pretty thick. Because what happens is you have electric sort of sitting under these like pin type things that sort of drive them up as as it needs to make the shape of the braille. It's sort of, creating an electric charge, and it kind of pushes everything up. That's why, as you can sort of guess, like it's a little bit thicker. So as technology changes, we've kind of gotten into sort of motors that try to drive pins. There's been ways to try to slim this down. But to kind of give you a brief history, like piezo has been around for 20, 30 years. As long as I've been in this field or been using stuff, it's been piezo driven until recently.
What is the other technology?
So there's several different things out there. For example, like motors driving pins. There's the dot technology, which I talked about, which is it's kind of a little different how they sort of display things. So there are pros and cons to all of these technologies out there. So with piezo, for example, one of the technologies, I think I mentioned it earlier, is if you push on the braille, it kind of goes down as you're reading it. So somebody with like neuropathy, right, might struggle with using piezo, where you take a technology like the dot, where it's sort of a pin-based that sort of, once it's up, it's up. Somebody with neuropathy might be able to push on that a little bit harder and get some feeling out of that. The dot technology that we're using for the Monarch is very new. I think they're on their second or third generation of it. So it's only been out for, I don't want to date myself because I could be wrong on this, but 6 or 7 years, let's just say.
Okay. Now, you said that APH paired with Humanware to develop the Monarch. Did they also pair with Humanware to develop the Mantis?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, we partnered with them on that.
I think that's all I have, Joe. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I think that's it. It was fun. I appreciate being on here with you, Doug.
Well, I'd like to have you back and maybe talk about some of these other products. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, anytime. I'd love to come back.
Okay. Betsy, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I think Joe did a great job, as always. He's our product expert and does a great job talking about not only our current technology we have for sale, but also what's on the horizon.
Okay. Betsy, can you give me the web address one more time?
You can find APH at aph.org.
And the YouTube channel?
Search American Printing House for the Blind on YouTube, or look for our handle, which is the @ APHORG.
And the name of the podcast?
Change Makers is the name of the podcast through APH.
Okay. And the telephone number?
Oh, no. I'm getting it. Okay. Local folks can reach us at 1-502-895-2405, or you can call toll free at 1-800-223-1839.
Okay, thank you very much. Joe and Betsy, thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Doug.
Happy to do it. Thanks for coordinating.
And thanks to APH as well. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. So we just leave this program on for maybe 15 minutes, and then once everything is uploaded, we'll send it your way?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Joe, I'd like to have you back sometime if I can.
Oh, definitely. I'd love to come back.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Bye.
Thanks again to Joe and Betsy from APH, and thanks to APH for this great podcast. Also, I'd like to thank our team, Aaron and Keith, and the rest of the people in our team. Thanks to Greg, who's now joined our team, become the producer. So thanks to everybody. This has been Share the Wisdom with Doug Cram. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Share. Please look out for the next episode ping soon, and visit us on the web at www.w4bv.org. This has been Share with your host, Mr. Douglas Graham. Produced by Wisdom for the Blind and VNS Productions, a division of VNS International.
Wisdom for the Blind is dedicated to doing everything we can for the blind and sight impaired. If you'd like to bless us with a donation to keep the website, the podcast, the webinars, and the radio station operating, we can't express how grateful we'd be. You can go to the website at w4tb.org. That's4tb.org, and hit the donation button. Or you can mail it to Wisdom for the Blind Incorporated. Attention donations. 1005 Marina Mile Boulevard, Suite 255, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33315. Wisdom for the Blind is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Remember, it's tax deductible. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts at Wisdom for the Blind.
You're listening to Wisdom for the Blind Radio, W4TV, from the studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the home of the Wisdom for Blinded Kids portal. Please enjoy the show, and don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.